What's up, guys? I'm here in Lee Cycle in San Diego, and I'm here with the beautiful Ducati V4R on the dyno. Let's see what she makes. What I'll be testing today is going to be the stock mapping, meaning with no UpMap, and of course we've got the Akra slip on here. I'll also be testing the Akra UpMap, and I'll also be testing our mapping, and we're going to do all three side by side. Let's do it. All right, wrapped up tuning the V4. Let's see those results. Bam, there we go. Now, let me just explain this graph to you and why I've got three lines going through everything here. Now, first is red. Red is gonna be stock. And red, we've got a max here, of course, 189, and barely touched that 190 marker. And look what it does here. It has this odd dip. Now, I've made a few pulls here on the stock one, and it just kept on dipping and dipping and dipping. Very odd. I don't really see that in the V4R much. Maybe some different software versions do this more, but that's a very odd one right there on that dip. Not really typical. You see that on the Ducati. And because this does have a slip-on, we're seeing that massive lean spike here, and we're seeing it suffer right there in the bottom end. More like the mid-range you're cruising light to light, that'll feel like a massive hump, like there's something wrong with the bike. It just kind of loses a bunch of power right there because it's so lean, and that's typical for a piped Ducati. Now, if we're going to the blue here, the blue is the actual Akra UpMap making 196. Which is a respectable 7-wheel horsepower more, even making 1 wheel more torque than that stock mapping. Now, of course, it's optimized for that Akra exhaust, but you can see right here, we're not getting all the RPM. It doesn't let it loose all the way at 16.5. It kind of stumbles right there at that 16 marker, the same as stock does. But it does carry that power a lot better. It doesn't have that bottom dip. Looking a lot better than stock, let's put it that way. Much better option. But for those of you, and most of you who don't buy the Akra, or the people that do have the Akra, that don't want to use the UpMap, we have our mapping right here at 203 making, what is that? I'm not great at math here. That's going to be 7-wheel more horsepower from 196 to 203. And you can see ours at about 9,000 RPM really starts separating itself, even though it really does kind of carry the entire way, maybe 1 or 2 wheel horsepower more. But up here up top, it really starts running away from the curve. And you can see it just carries and carries over that Akra map all the way over to that 16.5 limiter. Now, this is really impressive stuff, and of course we're making 3-wheel more torque than our stock mapping. So this is all good, substantial stuff, and we're making this stuff by repeating over and over again on the dyno. We do individual cylinder tuning, so we know these bikes in and out. We're even messing with the funnel trumpets or the stack trumpets in the airbox of when they activate, when they come down, and that's kind of risky, not because it's gonna ruin the bike, but because you can lose so much power that way, guys. So we actually mess with that over and over again to get a good substantial number, to carry a little bit over that Akra number. And we're also doing, of course, lambda stuff. We're doing ignition. We're doing limiters. We're doing a whole bunch of torque value stuff. I mean, we do the full gambit of tuning on this bike. Now, it doesn't really have a top speed stuff, but we did eliminate that weird, that wandering for the V4 stuff it does when it's idling. That's gone now. And we also lowered the fan temperature on the bike itself too. So it's gonna run cooler overall and more power. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Now here's that V4 versus V4R. We got the V4 here in red and the V4R in blue. Now you see that V4 is making 30 wheel more horsepower in the mid-range, 20 wheel more torque, and up top we're about 6 more wheel horsepower. And you're probably sitting there going, well, why would you ever get a V4R? Well, the V4R carries its power further and longer. The power band is substantially longer than the standard V4 here. Now, of course, the V4 has that bigger displacement engine. That's why we're seeing these kinds of gains versus the V4R, which is under 1,000 cc's to compete in World Superbike. Now, in an actual track setting, the V4 is going to stomp the V4. It's going to completely stomp it. But light to light, or you're streeting a bike, I would prefer a V4. It's a lot more torque, it's a lot more fun. This thing is really light in the front end when you're just riding around. It's a blast. Whereas the V4R at the track is an absolute monster. And I think if you race these things side by side in a 60 roll, you're gonna see that V4R just cruise right around that V4 up top, because it's got this such a wide power band, just carries in this plateau up top here. Whereas the V4R just hits a number, then stops, hits a number, then stops. This just carries it the entire way. So now that I showed you guys the comparison and we did the before and after here on the V4R, it's time to take her out and see what she does. Let's do it.